Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello crafters. Today we are going to be using the May Love from Lizi 2022 card kit, and this is the Kisses and Wishes kit. So this is the first card we're going to make, and this is an inside block or step card. So you can see here I have used some of the ribbon as well as images from the cut parts. So let's go ahead now and start. I have a 6x6 card base here. This is a piece of card measuring 12 by 6, and I've scored it at 6 on the long side. You can get shop bought ones, but I made this one myself. I have 3 pieces of white cardstock. They measure 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, and 2 pieces will go inside and 1 on the outside. I have 3 pieces of pattern paper. These measure 5 1/2 by 5 1/2, and 1 again will go on the outside and 2 on the inside. So these are what we need for the card base. Now for inside the card base, I have this piece here. This piece measures 8 by 4 1/4, and on the 8-inch side I've scored it at 2, 4 and 6. We're going to then fold these over all in the same direction. These are mountain folds, and at each end I've used some of the tape that came in the kit, and these we're going to adhere to the inside of the card like so. This will be the bigger block inset in the middle. Then I have 4 strips of this blue cardstock. These pieces measure 5 by 1 1/4 inch. I've scored this at 1 1/4, 2 1/2 and 3 3/4. Again, we'll fold all these into mountain folds, and you can see there on each end I've again added some tape. I've used the tape that came in the kit, as I said, but you can use liquid glue or whatever you like to glue these down. A tip I'd like to share with you when using double-sided tape is if you stick it down and then get a stamping block, one that has an edge to it, bring it down onto the tape and then pull the tape away. It'll give you a nice straight tear, and that way then you don't have to be using your scissors. So I find that a really handy tip. And then finally I've one more piece that's for inside our card. This piece measures 5 by 2, and this is for the sentiment inside. Now that piece was a little bit bigger, but I will cut it down. Then I have taken some images. These are all from the cut apart sheets that we got. I have the little one there, Today We Eat Cake. I used a scalloped punch to punch that out. And then this one I have put some foam tape behind it. I used one of the stamps for the Celebrate, and again I matted that with some of the blue cardstock. And then we have this lovely ribbon with the tassels. Okay, so now I'm going to add everything down. I'm using my Collal construction glue for this. This doesn't cause warping to my card or paper when I glue it in place. You see there, I just realized I didn't have the card in the right orientation. It needs to be a top opening card. So I had it on as a side opening, but the great thing about the Collal glue gives a little bit of wiggle room, so I had time to whip that pattern paper off and turn it into the right orientation. So I'm using the blue one there for the top. I thought that would kind of give the impression of sky, and then the green lovely polka dot paper for the grass. I'm going to take the release paper now off our tape, and I'm going to stick that in place. I want to make sure that it's centered in my card base and it's just below the score line. Then I'm going to take the other release paper off and then press the card blank down, and you can see there that sits inside nicely. And we're just going to do the same again then with our little blue ones. I'm going to sit it on top of our square there. I'll do the other one as well, put that in place. Then I'm going to fold them in half, and I know they're going to fit in there nicely. Take off the release paper on both of them. I'm going to flatten them down then so they're in half, and then closed the card. Perfect. So we're just going to repeat the same thing now with these two. So again, I'll take off the release, and I'm using the top squares there. You can see there I drag it down along as a guide so it's centered and they're evenly matched between the top and bottom. Again then I'll fold them over, take off the release tape, and then fold the card, and I press them down as I'm folding over the card. Now you can see there is a little bit of bulk. I don't mind that. I love a bit of bulk on my card. So I've added on now the little images. The ribbon, I've used the double-sided tape that came in the kit. You could of course have wrapped that around the blue polka dot matte layer before you stuck that one down, but I figured I'd use the tape and it worked perfectly. And as I'm looking at it here, it's still well stuck down. You can use an embossing buddy, you know, a powder, if you find you have any stickiness coming through, but I didn't find any at all. So I'm going to stick up my Celebrate there at the top corner, and then I'm going to glue down my little images. Now when you're gluing these down, don't sit them down so they sit down against our white square. You want to raise them up just a little bit, literally about 2 millimeters up off. That way it's not going to catch when you close it. Another tip as well is to make sure any images that you sit in here on these blocks, do a dry run to make sure when you close the card nothing pokes out the top. But I'm happy with that. These images are small and they all sit in there nicely when the card is closed. So now I'm just going to put my little piece on the front. I'm not doing too much on the front because the card will be displayed open. I've stamped a sentiment on my sentiment little white panel there and glued that down. And there we go. There's our first card. And I just think this is so cute. I love it. Fab. So now we're moving on to card 2. And this is a thank you card. It's pretty simple. It's just a matter of doing some cutting. And we're going to do that next. You'll also notice that I have all the measurements here on the screen as with the previous card, so you can pause the video, write down the measurements, and then I'll go through them all on the screen. I'll be using these Lemon Straight Sparkle peel-offs from the Editions, and you can see here I have a card base. This is a ready-made card base and it measures 11 5/8 by 5 3/4. So for this I've had to stagger my sizes, but you could do this as a 6 by 6 card base if you wanted. So this yellow piece measures 5.5 by 5.5. I have a piece of pattern paper measuring 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, as well as this white piece measuring 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. So I have measured from the left hand side over along the bottom to 4. I've measured from the left up to 3 and then 3.5. And from the right bottom corner, I've measured up to 3 as well. So please pause this video now and you'll be able to see the measurements, because I'm going to cut along these pencil lines and that's going to give us our little gaps so we can see our pattern paper. This yellow strip is 5.5 by 1 inch and this pattern piece of paper is 5 1/4 by 3/4 of an inch, and they will go on the inside of our card. I've taken one of the little sentiments on the cut parts, and this one's for you is what it says, and that's going to sit in our pattern paper like so. And then I fussy cut out this thanks heart. I have foam tape on the back of both of these. I'm going to add these two together and then stick these onto the card like so. So it'll cover up where our white cardstock is cut there on the left hand side. So I'm using my Crop-A-Pillar to cut my lines. I can see where my pencil line is, where the blade is going to cut. This also has a little light on it and I can switch that on and it'll shine through and show me again where my pencil line is. So I'm really having fun using this for cutting things for cards like this style. So here's our 3 pieces that we have cut. We're going to keep the top piece and the bottom piece, and then we'll get rid of our middle piece so we can see our pattern paper. So I've speeded everything up now. It's just a matter of assembling all our parts and pieces. Again, I'm using my Collal construction glue to give my card strength. You could have this as a top opening card, but I've gone with a side opening card. My 2 white panels there, I put some foam tape underneath those. I would recommend putting your peel-offs on before you put down your heart and your little banner piece. Of course, I don't like to make things easy, so I forgot. but I can do that no problem. I haven't glued down the thanks heart, so I can just lift that up and do it. I'm adding some of the peel offs to this little strip for the inside, and I think it just brings the little bit of sparkle from the outside to the inside as well, so it'll be all matching. And I'll stamp a sentiment inside, and it's one from my stash, and there'll be links to products that I can find online down in the description below. So now I have the peel offs, and I'm just tucking them under my black fussy cut thanks heart, and they go on no problem because, as I said, I didn't glue it down. I just used the foam to pop that down. I was thinking about putting some of the sequins on this card, but I figure with having the peel offs there, it brings a bit of sparkle, and I don't think it needs much more than that. So here we go now. This is card number 3, and I love this one. This is an angled gatefold card. I made the pattern paper myself using the lovely stamps that came in the kit on some cardstock. I stamped up an A4 sheet, and then I was able to cut that all down to size. I think this is a really cool style card. You could put a belly band with it, but I don't think it needs it. And again, I've all the measurements on the screen for you. So my card base measures 11.5 by 7, and I've scored it at 3.25 and 8.25, and that will give us our gatefold card. Now you'll see where normally our gatefold card, the flaps or gates meet in the middle, these are overlapping because we want to cut our angles off like you've seen earlier. So we'll get to that in a moment. First I'm going to give you our measurements for our pattern paper. So I have 4 of these, and like I said, I made these myself using an A4 sheet that I stamped and embellished. And I have cut these into pieces measuring 3 inches by 6 5/8. Now I'm going to kind of match up the pattern, so when the gates close on the front they match up somewhat, and then the same when they're open, it kind of looks consistent. So it's up to yourself depending. I don't think you really notice, but you know, that's up to yourself. I have the peel offs here I'll be using, as well as the stamp set. Now this is a fully loaded stamp set, and you can see the 2 llamas, the balloon and the little crown that I used to make my pattern paper. So on the left hand gate we want to measure across 2 3/4. So I've put a little mark at 2 3/4 there along the bottom. And then on the right hand gate I've closed the little door, and again I'm marking over 2 3/4 and putting a little marker there. Then along the side we want to measure up 5 inches from the bottom on both doors. So I'll do it on this one, and then I shall mark it on the other one as well. We want to join the right hand top corner to our 5-inch mark. So from top right down to our 5-inch mark and draw a line, and then from that 5-inch mark we're doing a line down to our bottom mark, which was at 2 3/4. So we'll be taking a little sliver off that side piece there, and then we're going to do the mirror image of that on the left hand side door. So you'll have marked both gates and drawn your lines on both of those as well. Then I'm going to bring it over to my crop pillar, and I'm going to cut off those corners, and you can see there I have the light on. I'm tilting it so you can see how I'm following the lines that I have drawn with my pencil, and then I'm going to cut along those lines, those pencil lines, and that'll give us our angles that we want on both of our gates. I'll make sure and rub off any pencil marks that I have there, and then brush those away. And I'll use my little desk tidy there to get up any of the little rubber marks that are on there. So now we just need to add our pattern papers, and we're doing the same thing on the 2 of them. So I've done the 2 on the outside, now I'll do the 2 on the inside. So for this one I want to mark over, and I'm going to mark over 2.5, and then I'm going to come up the side 4 3/4. So we're again going to do that with both of them. Now you could put the 2 together and cut the 2 at the same time, but I like to mark them as I'm doing them. So now again, I'm going to put them in my trimmer. I'm cutting from the top left down to the 4 3/4 mark, and from the bottom I'll cut up then our second mark. And it's the same with what we've done on the gatefold parts as what we're going to do here with these. So I'm delighted with that now. You can see that on the other two that I've already done, I used some of the white peel-offs. These came in the add-on pack that I got as a design team member, but don't forget that you can go in, look at all the different add-ons that Lizi has available that go with this kit, as well as lots of other products that she has on the website. You can order them, and if you put your order through before the closing for the box, you can have them put into your kit box and you won't be charged any extra shipping. Isn't that wonderful? So it's the best time to buy extras is when you know it can be popped into your kit and be shipped with the kit. So I love that. And Lizi has loads of products on the website, really handy dies and stamps, etc. Okay, so I have my 4 pieces of pattern paper. I have the peel-offs put on them, and now I'm just going to add my adhesive. You can use double-sided tape or glue that you have in your stash. Again, I'm going to go with my trusty Collal Glue. I know when this dries, it'll be nice and stiff, and it'll really give strength to my card. So I'll add that on to both sides and add them in. And if you find your angles on your card base are a little wider than what you'd like when you put your matte layers down, you can go ahead and trim them off a little bit. No one will know. And everyone kind of cuts, and their trimmer might cut a little bit differently. So don't forget to do that. If you find that the pattern paper on the left hand gate, is got more of a gap, then just go ahead and trim it off. That's what I do if ever I make a little boo-boo. So I've stamped the sentiment from my stash, and I've added the Celebrate stamp from the kit, as well as stamp a little llama. And there's our card. I love it. I'm going to add some sequins, some gold sequins to the outside, and I'm making sure that the sequins aren't on the parts that overlap. So now we're moving on to card number 4, and isn't this pretty? I just love this. Again, some of the images I've cut out from the cut aparts, and I think this is a simply wonderful get well card. So my card base measures 12 by 6, and again I've scored it at 6. I have a piece of pattern paper which measures 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. I have this white strip, and it measures 2.5 by 5 3/4, and I've used the lovely bubblegum pink peel-offs to edge each side. I've then taken some of the images that I have fussy cut from one of the cut apart sheets, and two of them had butterflies. One I left on the blooming, and the other one I cut off, so I'm going to put that on myself. Then I have these 2 little strips. They were the offcuts from the pattern paper I'm going to put inside, and then I'm going to use the blush and gold stickers as my sentiments for the front. So now I've speeded everything up. I'm going to assemble the card. We have glued down our pattern paper. I'm taking the release paper off my tape on my white panel there, and I'm going to stick that down, and I'll make sure that's centered on my card. My little floral images, I have foam tape behind them to give a little dimension, but you can just stick these straight down if you don't want dimension on your card, and you can do the same with all the cards I make. If I use foam tape and you don't want the dimension because of the added cost of postage, then you don't have to put that on. So I'm just popping down my little floral pieces as well as my little butterfly that I fussy cut out. And now I'm going to add down my sticker sentiments. The one on top here is hello, and then the one underneath is feel better soon. And you'll see there I use a little liquid glue on them. I just want to be sure that they're going to stay in place when I stick them down. And I'm sure the adhesive on these is really good and that I don't need to do that, but I'm just a worrywart and I want to make sure. I'm also going to take some of the peel-offs and I'm going to put them either side of our strips. So I'll use 4 peel-off lengths on these 2 strips, and that's so I can bring the outside to the inside. Again, I've used another one of the stickers. It's Sending Hugs Your Way on the inside, and that is card 4. It's pretty simple, but I think it's a beautiful looking card, and I'd love to get that if I wasn't well. So next is card 5, and this is a faux stepper card. Some of my cards are inspired by tutorials on YouTube, especially Sam from Mixed Up Crafts. I just love some of the cards that she makes, and I really enjoy getting to share them on my YouTube channel, especially here on the Love from Lizi channel with you. So the measurements are on the screen. Again, pause it and you can make a note of these measurements. But we have our main piece, our main card base, and this piece measures 11 by 6, and I've scored it at 1, 2, 5.5, 9, and 10. Now we want to fold these, and the first one is a mountain fold, then we'll have a valley fold, then another mountain fold, then a valley fold, and a mountain fold. So it's like an accordion the way you would do it. So now once we have all those folds scored and burnished, and we'll use our bone folder for that, and it'll just help this whole piece to stand up nicely. This is your card base in essence. The next piece now we want to put is in the middle part to make it look like a step, and we're going to use 2 pieces of white card. This piece measures 7.25 by 3.5, and I've scored it at 1/2 and at 6 3/8. So this little tab here, I've cut a miter on each of the edges. That's going to be a tab, and this fold then is going to sit down at the base of our card. So it'll sit in there behind the first step. It'll be hidden away in there. So that'll be the front part of our step. And then this piece measures 6 3/4 by 3.5. We're going to burnish that one score line. That'll sit down in the back like so. And then the top will get stuck onto our little tab that we have mitered the ends with. And this gives us our faux or our pretend look of a step card without doing all that pesky measuring and cutting, which I hate. I never get it right. Give me a die that'll do this any day. This piece here, it's a piece that measures 4 by 4, and I've scored it at 1, 2, and 3. This again is an accordion fold, so it's a mountain, a valley, and a mountain. We're going to put these inside here in the middle, and that's going to stop our card from splaying open. So next we have these 2 center panels. I have 2 of the pink in 3.25 by 5.5, and then I have a piece of pattern paper and a piece of white card, and they measure 3 by 5.25. And you can see the white one there. I added some of the stickers, I stamped the celebrate, I added a little offcut as well. These 2 matte layers, they measure 5 3/4 by 3/4 inch, and the little piece of pattern paper is 5.5 by 1/2 inch. I have 4 of these pieces here. They measure 1 by 3 1/8, and the pattern paper then measures 3/4 inch by 2 7/8, and they'll give the look of the steps. I'm going to embellish it using these lovely green sparkly peel-offs, and on the front of our panel I'm going to die cut out the happy birthday. This pack is from Love from Lizi. It's on her website, and I'm also going to use one of those stickers that came in there, the puffy ones with the little glitter that sparkles inside. So now I've put all my mats and layers together on their pieces. We're going to focus on our card base. So I'm taking the 2 long pieces that are going to be joined at the top together by the mitered piece. And that, once I've that glued down, I'm then going to add the mats and layers to go on this piece before I stick it into the bottom part. I find it's easier. So I have the front one on there now. We'll pop in the back one, and there's a nice white border goes all around. I'm going to then stick in this piece. This is the 4x4 piece that we scored, and you can see there it's in the inside middle part. I haven't brought it right down to the bottom. It's up about 1/4 of an inch, but that's going to stop the card from splaying open. Our little strips will go on our front and back little steps, and I'll put them on there, and I use the strips that you could cut off on the 12x12 sheets. So then we want to stick our center panel in. So again, I'm going to use some liquid glue to do that. You could use some of the tape that came in the kit. You just need to make sure that you measure, you know, that you have an equal border. So you're measuring 1.25 inches there. And that then will allow us to put our little inch panels either side, and everything will look nice and even, you know. So I have 2 to go on the front and 2 to go on the back. Now I've put panels on the back of this card as well, because I want the back to be as pretty as the front. And the one sheet of pattern paper, the 6x6 pattern paper I used, it did everything except the 2 little strips at the bottom, front and back. And for that I used one of the strip that came on the 12x12 cut apart sheets that we got. So now I've die cut out my happy birthday, and I've put it with the shadow, and I'm debating how I want this to go on the front of the card. I'm going to lift my happy birthday up using some foam tape. Again, you can just stick this straight down onto the card if you like, but I like the bit of dimension, so I figure I'm happy to pay a little bit extra for this, for when I'm posting it. So I've decided to go with the lovely floral puffy sticker, and I'm going to put that up towards the top left hand corner. Once I've that done, then I can add my happy birthday sentiment. And I'm not putting them on here straight. The happy is kind of tilted down on the right, and the birthday is tilted up on the right, so it just gives a happy-go-lucky look. I will then take a Spectrum Noir sparkle pen and go over my happy birthday to give that a little bit of embellishment. And I've taken these little peel off circles. They're a glitter gold, and I had these in my stash. You can get them on Lizi's website, and I'm using them to embellish rather than the sequins. I just thought they'd be pretty because there's glitter on these, there's glitter on the peel offs. Yeah, just glitter and sparkle all over. So there you go. That is card number 5. I hope you like it, and please do give it a try. If you feel the card is a little bit too, you know, might be a bit too hard, use some copy paper and have a go cutting out the pieces with that. And if you manage with that, then you'll know you'll manage with the card. But it is simple, and I hope you give it a try. Card 6 is a 4x8.25 size card, and we've just added a little bit there onto the left. I love this style of DL size card. I just think it's so cool. Now you could actually have it in the landscape and have it like a stepper, but I'm going to go with it in the portrait. So I have a piece here, and this piece measures 9x8.25, and I've scored it at 3, 5.5, 6.5 and 9, and we're going to do again the accordion fold, a mountain, a valley, a mountain and a valley, and that will be the folds in it. And there you can see you could set that as a stepper card, or like I'm going to do, you can have it as a portrait style card. I love the idea of that as a stepper, but I'm going to go with portrait. So I have all my mats and layers here, and I think we're going to start with our large piece, our white piece, that's going to be where we can put our sentiments, or a center sentiment panel, we call it. And this piece, it measures 3 3/4 by 8. Then we have some strips and some tags. Now I'm going to have 4 strips, and I've kind of gleaned these from the pattern papers, from the 12x12 cut aparts. So I have 2 which is sentiment heavy, and then 2 which is floral. And this little strip, it's just 1/4 of an inch by 8 inches long, and I'm going to decorate that white panel there using that to the very right. Then we have 2 strips, and these measure 1¼ by 8. One is the floral and the other is the sentiment. It was the back of the floral piece, and it had lovely words on there for a friend and, you know, how special they are. Then I have the 2 smaller strips. These are 3/4 inch by 8, and they have lovely words on the back of these. They're really nice. I've taken 2 of the tag cut parts. I've cut off the top. I didn't want them as tags, and I have matte layers for both of these, and I just added 1/4 inch on the matte sizing to go with the size of the 2 tags I cut out. So that'll depend on what size you cut yours out. So now I'm going to glue everything down in place. Again, I'm using my Collal glue, and I'll have a nice border going all around. I love the sentiments on the strips with the words. It has, on one of them, I'll just read a bit. It has, "I thought of you today and smiled, so thankful you're a part of my life, just wanted to brighten your." And then there's, "Smile a lot more, girl, you got this. I thought of you today. Sparkle wherever you go. Thanks for being crazy." I just thought they were lovely words, positive words. And then our 2 tags, the one that's going to go on our large white panel, that says, "Stay close to people who make you feel like sunshine." And then the one that's going to go on the front is, "Because of you, I laugh a little harder, cry a little less, and smile a lot more." I thought they were lovely. Now I want to place these 2 panels so that the one on the front, on our little 3/4 inch strip of pattern paper there, it's going to sit on top of our panel that's going to go on the white piece. So when our card is closed, the front panel is going to sit over the back panel. So you'll just see the one panel, and then when you open it, you see the second panel behind it. I just love this idea. I think it's a really positive, lovely card to send a friend or someone who's feeling low. So I'm going to embellish this, and I'm going to use some of the sequins. I'll use the light pink sequins and the gold sequins, and I'll stick them down using my Cosmic Shimmer glue. Once I've those in place, I'm going to use some glossy accents to fill the sequins, as I always do. I like that look. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my glossy accents and I'm going to put some little drops on the 2 panels. I'm going to use them like you'd use a Nouveau drop, but I want them clear. I didn't want to add anything more to it, but I just wanted that little something, and it really does give that. I just love this card. I think it's such a positive card to send someone if you know someone is having a hard time or struggling, and I think the papers and the sentiments on it are just so positive. They're really lovely. So that is card 6. I'm delighted with this. Now we're going to move on to card number 7. This card is a gatefold style card, but it has a center pop-up in it. Just adding 2 score lines to the center will allow our panel inside to pop up like so. I loved the color and the pattern on this pattern paper, and the sentiment that went with it. I thought this would make a nice sympathy card, if you can call a sympathy card nice, but I thought this would be the type of card you could even give to a male who has lost you know, a female. So what we need is a piece of 12 by 6. We're going to score it at 3, 5.5, 6.5, and 9. And for that, then we need to add some panels. Now you can see there our score lines are a valley, a mountain, and a valley. So our card will sit like so. Okay, we need to embellish it with our pattern papers. We'll have 2 pattern papers for the outside and 2 for the inside. I'm going to use this geometric pattern for the outside of the doors. This is keeping it with the black and white theme and the mustard that we've going on. These panels measure 2 3/4 by 5 3/4. We have another 2 panels measuring 2 3/4 by 5 3/4 for the inside. And then we're going to put 2 white panels, one either side of those inside. So you can write a sentiment or a message on these, and I'll embellish them using some of the black stickers with the white sentiments on them. I have the two little off strips here. These were cut off when I was cutting my pattern paper, 2¼ by 1/4 of an inch. And then our panel here now at 3/4 by 5¾ would fit perfect, but I'd only a 1/2 inch strip left, so that's what I put in there. It's a 1/2 inch by 5¾ Then my pop-up panels, I have used again another tag that I cut down. I put a little mark there where the center of that was, so I could put my foam tape behind it. That way it'll be raised up off that middle panel. So now all we need to do, I have glued down all my panels to the card base. I'm adding the center panel and then my little stickers. I'm going to use again some liquid glue on the back of these just to be sure that they stay in place. I do feel the adhesive on these stickers is very good, but I just want to be sure and make sure they stay on. So there we go, that's card 7, our sympathy card, and now we're moving on to card 8. This card is a 6 by 6 tiered bendy card inspired by Mixed Up Crafts. This card you can have it on a card base like I have, or you can just have a front panel and then put your sentiment on the back. Either way, the card will either stand without the card base or as just a panel. But I like this way, I think it's really cool. So you can see it folds flat to go in an envelope, but because of the way we've scored and folded this, the tiered element, it pops up and, you know, gives this bendy tiered look on the front, and I think it's so cool. So let's go ahead now and make it. For this I'm using a 6 by 6 card base. To make one yourself you'll need a piece measuring 12 by 6, score it at 6. And this is going to be the card base I'm going to put everything onto the front of. But you can just use a piece of card measuring 6 by 6 and attach everything to the front of that. It'll still stand, but I prefer to have my card base itself so you can open it up and put your sentiment inside. So it's up to yourself which you do. I have two pieces here, one is pattern paper and one is white card, and they measure 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. My pattern paper will go on the outside and then this piece will go on the inside. And you can see I've embellished it. I've cut out some of the little animals from the strip and the strip with the buzzy bees and some of the little ladybirds I have put inside and stamped celebrate using one of the stamps from the kit. I've also cut out some of the bigger animals from the tags that was in the cut apart, and I'm just showing you there. I did some little dots so it looked like a little ladybird trail. Okay, so on the front of this then we have our bendy parts. So we have this piece of black card and it measures 8 by 3. And I have a piece of pattern paper then that'll go on this. This piece measures 5 3/4 by 2 3/4. I have a piece here measuring 8 by 2 and pattern paper measuring 5 3/4 by 1 3/4, and my black strip here measures 8 by 1 and my pattern strip measures 5 3/4 by about 3/4 of an inch, but I allowed for my little animals there. I didn't want to cut their faces off. So our black strips now, we need to put some score lines on those. And we're going to do the same for all three. We're going to score it a half at 1 and then at 7 and 7.5. I'm just checking there to make sure. I'm having a look at my notes. So yeah, 7 and 7.5. And that then will give us our folds. So again, we'll do a half and 1, 7 and 7.5. And again we'll do a half and 1. Now you could rotate it and do again the half and 1 rather than scoring at the 7 and 7.5. It's up to yourself, whatever is easiest. So once we've that done, then we're going to do a valley and a mountain fold, then a mountain and a valley fold, and we'll burnish those. You'll have this piece, and this is what gives us the bendy bit. Now you can put a little bit of shape on this if you want, but it really doesn't need it. So again, we have a valley and a mountain and a valley fold. And then for the last piece, we have a valley and a mountain, and again then a mountain and a valley fold. Lovely. So then I'm going to burnish those all using my bone folder just to make sure that they're, you know, nice and crisp. And then we'll add our pattern paper onto these. Lovely. So the pattern paper, as I says, they'll go on top. So I have my 5 3/4 by 2 3/4 piece for that. I have my smaller strip, faffing with them, for up above, and then the smallest one. So I have glued those down on those two other strips. I'm going to glue this one down now on our 1-inch strip, and you can see there the little animals, they're off the edge, but that doesn't matter, it'll still fit in my card. I felt bad cutting off their little faces. I'm putting my hooray pattern paper there on the front, and then my sentiment panel on the inside that we have already embellished. And I think it took more time actually fussy cutting everything out than what it took to cut out all the pieces for the card, our pattern paper, our black pieces and everything. Okay, so with these pieces, we're now going to glue them onto the front of our card. So our half panel, we're going to add some liquid glue, and we're going to put that down to the bottom left-hand corner, keeping everything nice and straight. And once that side is glued down, we'll add some to our half-inch panel then on the other side, and then that allows this to bend out or to pop out once it comes out of the card. So we'll do the same now with this one, put some glue on our 1/2-inch panels, and I'm being brave, I'm doing it on both of them, and put it straight down, making sure everything is nice and level at the bottom. And again then with our smaller one on the front, allow them time to dry, and then once they're nice and set, and I do give it time, I just edit that out, then you can pop these little pieces forward. Isn't that lovely? And it gives us then lots of space and room to add our pieces. Now the birth yay, the party animal, and two of my little ladybirds, I attached some thin strips of acetate to those. They're 1/4 of an inch wide by however long I needed them. And I've used some double-sided tape then to stick them onto the bendy parts at the front. I used one of the puffy stickers, it's the butterfly shaker puffy sticker there, along with my happy birthday strip that I cut out. So I'm tucking the little animals behind each layer. I just think they're so cute. And I have to say the hedgehog with the balloons, yes, my favorite. I do love the little bees that I fussy cut out and the ladybirds. I think they're just so cute. And this card, it was one in particular, my daughter is up visiting at the weekend, and she's seen these cards on my desk and she spotted this one. She was like, oh mom, I love that. Like, I love them all, but I love that. And I was like, oh, I like this one too. So the fun now is in placing all your little bits and pieces where you want them, all our lovely little animals, and that's what I had fun doing. I just think this card is a great kids card, whether it's for a little boy or a little girl. I think there's plenty of adults would like this card too. But I hope you enjoyed this card, and I hope you'll give it a go, give it a try. It's so easy to do. You might be intimidated by some of the cards that I make, but please don't. You can slow everything down, watch it at your own pace, and have a go at making them. I'm telling you, you make this card once, you'll love it, and you'll make it loads of times. So there we go. That is card number 8. Now we're moving on to card number 9. Card number 9 is a nice easy one. It's just mats and layers and die cutting out the tags at the front into ovals. So on the outside it's one day at a time, and then inside using one of the stickers that has sending hugs your way. So this is a nice easy one, just mats and layers. Let's go ahead now and have a look at everything we need. So the measurements are all on the screen here for you. I want to look at this piece first. This is one of the tag cut aparts. I die cut it out because this matched the pattern paper that I'm going to use. So I used an oval die from my stash and a nested one, so I have the black piece is larger than the one in front. My card base is again a 6x6 card base. and I've got two black matte layers. These measure 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. I have two of these aqua coloured, and they're 5.5 by 5.5. I have a piece of pattern paper measuring 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, and the same with our white piece. This strip here at the bottom was just an offcut from the pattern paper, and I put that down at the bottom there. And I've also put my sentiment down there as well. Figured it would give you plenty of room to write your message inside. So I have all of our mats and layers ready to go for the inside. I'm going to glue them down, and then we'll stick down our mats and layers for the outside. So again, for this, I'm using the Collal Glue. That way I can be sure that there won't be any warpage or wavy looking to our card or our pattern paper when we put it down. So once I have this in place, then it's just a matter of sticking down our piece for the front. And I have this on some foam tape. The image, the one day at a time image, is got foam tape under that, and then I'm gluing that straight down to the card. I'm going to add some of the sequins, and I've picked up those aqua colors, or teal. Is that what you call this color? This bluey green, teal, aqua. I've put down a couple of sequins around the card as well as around our die cut panel, and I just think these are lovely. I filled them again using my glossy accents. A simple card, but I think it's a very pleasing one to the eye. This is card 10, and this card is just so cute and so easy. All you'll need is one sheet of pattern paper and some buttons or something that looks like buttons. My card base that I'm using here is a 6 by 6 card base. I have a piece of pattern paper measuring 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, and I'm going to sit that on as a top folding card. My little strip inside is 5 3/4 by 1/4 of an inch, and this strip for my buttons, it measures 3/4 of an inch by 4 3/4. These little buttons or little flower resin flowers I had from a previous Love from Lizi kit, and I'm using them on this. And I'm also going to use some of the baker's twine that we got in the kit. So I've marked over on the top 2 7/8, and where that little mark is, I want to come down now by 1 1/2. So from that mark there at 2 7/8, I'm going to come down 1 1/2. Once I have that then done with a pencil, I'm then going to cut that down. Our buttons will sit below that, so I was just checking there I had it right. So I'll take my scissors now and I'll cut along my pencil line. And once I have that done, then we're going to fold these pieces back. So it gives us like the collar of a blouse or a shirt. I'm going to use the ruler there to help with folding them back. I don't want to burnish that edge so it's flat, because I'm going to put some foam tape behind them. So I want it to kind of curl around rather than it being flattened, scored around. So this one side was giving me a bit of jip. It wasn't folding right over to the corner there, but I do get it for a finish. Lovely. Doesn't that look pretty? There you go. See, it wasn't curved right around, so I just want to make sure that's curved nicely right around. So again, using the ruler really does help to give that a nice edge. Well, a folded, curved over edge rather than a folded edge. So now I'm going to pop some slim or thin foam tape behind each of these little lapels just to give it a little lift. Again, you don't have to. You can leave them so that they're not stuck down, or you can stick them down if you like so they're in place. I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue just to make sure that they stick down. The foam that I'm using here, it's actually a draft excluder foam or something. I got it in the €2 shop. I think it was the €2 or the Mr. Price shop. It works brilliant. Anyway, I'm going to glue down my panel of my blouse, and then I'm going to put down my little button strip that I have here. It's just a teeny bit too long, so I took a skim off the edge. I've also embellished that little button strip using some of my peel-offs. I used the bubblegum pink peel-offs that we got in the kit to embellish this little strip, and I'm going to glue that straight down. Now, like I said, you can use the sequins we got in the kit as little pretend buttons, or maybe you have some little buttons in your stash you could add to this. Next, I want to add a sentiment, and I'm going to stamp a sentiment from my stash. I wanted this to be a for my friend birthday card, so I'm going to use a stamp from my stash and stamp that down. Now, I picked out a nice pink ink that I have. It's kind of a lilac pink, and I thought this would be nice. So I put it on my block. I'm being very brave, and I decided I'm not using a stamping platform, but I didn't like the color. It wasn't how it's stamped, but really it was the color I wasn't too impressed with. So I went and I die cut out an oval, and I stamped it using a different colored ink, and I was much happier with that. It picked up the color on the pattern paper and of my little flower buttons better. I've popped in my little bow that I made using the string, and I like to use hot glue when I attach that to make sure it sticks. I'm using a Card Making Magic birthday sentiment inside, and that is literally card number 10, and I love it. I think it's so unusual. All I wanted to do with this was finish off my little strip there at the bottom using some of the peel-offs, because I figured I have the peel-offs on our button strip on the outside. I'm going to finish it off using the peel-offs on the inside. So that's it. That's card number 10. That's all 10 cards. I'm going to leave you now with some images of the 10 cards we've made. If you've enjoyed my video, you might give it a thumbs up. Click the like button down below. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing. And if not, please click the bell icon down below, and that way you'll be notified each time I post a new video. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. If you have any problems or comments or queries or anything at all, you can leave it in the comments section down below. I do answer all the little comments that are left below, and if you need help with anything, if there's anything you're struggling with, I'm on Facebook. So if you go to the Facebook Messenger app, you can message me on my Blonde Cards and Crafts Facebook page, and if you have a problem, I'll do my best to get back to you. And if it needs a little video for me to make for you, I'm quite happy to do stuff like that, because my motto is be kind. It doesn't cost anything. So there you go, folks. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and until next time, thanks so much for watching. Take care, stay safe, and bye for now.